Welcome to Clear Play, powered by Typical Sportsbook. I'm your host, Tony Anderson, and today we are talking the keys to betting MMA and, of course, UFC 275. Joining me today is fighting analyst for MMA Junkie, Daniel Tom. Daniel, give me some keys to betting MMA.
Well, I'm going to just kind of break it down to 4 keys that kind of bleed into each other, especially the first 2. The first being sample size. It's a word that people who follow me hear me say all the time because it's really important. A lot of people get wrapped up in stats and they can be very misleading. First of all, they're more often than not wrong and not accurate, nor do they tell the story of the fight. They also don't represent a full sample size. So sometimes you have differing sample sizes that can really throw you off. Or if you're just going about it from a forensic perspective, if we're examining an orthodox fighter for a southpaw against a southpaw, or a fighter against a wrestler, well, I want to see how that fighter does against wrestlers in their past. So again, sample size is really huge for doing the legwork as far as researching your bets. That's the first key. The second key kind of bleeds into that, which is watch the tape. Hear people tell you that in athletics, and as far as analyzing the athletics or the fight sports in this case, the same thing it goes true. You really can't shortcut the work. You have to watch the tape. Identify that sample size on what you're looking for, and you got to watch the tape. Again, the stats can kind of read out a complete different story than what actually happens in the fight, so watch the tape. Number 3 would be understanding risk, and that goes for a lot of things that'll bleed into number 4, but what I mean by understanding risk is understanding what you're betting on. You're betting on mixed martial arts. A lot of people have formats for professional baseball, for example, that they can kind of bet and keep to a certain type of program. You cannot take those models in other sports and apply them to something as volatile as combat sports, especially the most volatile combat sport, which is mixed martial arts. And within that, understand what you're betting. If you're betting lighter weight classes, perhaps women's MMA, most fights are probably going to go to a decision. Whereas if you're betting with the heavyweights and the big boys, you have to understand the risk that the fight could end at any time. So that is understanding risk, and that parlays perfectly to the last and final point, which parlays with understanding risk, and that's bankroll management. This one I've had to learn the hard way, folks. It's good old-fashioned math. It's good old-fashioned responsibility. It's hard to have fun whether you're winning or losing if you don't have bankroll management. If you have proper bankroll management, we can make the mistakes in our forensics and our research. We can make the mistakes in our picks and our plays, and we can still live to fight another day. So bankroll management is huge.
Well, Dan, you are a madman. You've given us tons of keys. Now, let's talk UFC 275. Can you give me some interesting background stories from some of these fights?
Well, it's great. They stack these title fights at the top of these pay-per-views, and at the very top you got Glover Teixeira. I always personally, maybe because I'm getting older myself, I may not look it, but I love to see the older athletes getting after it and getting it done. And Glover Teixeira's done just that. Obtaining the title over 42 years old, and he's facing a guy who is still in his late 20s, so over a decade difference against Prochazka. Prochazka's actually favored, as you often see. This is combat sports, the circle of life. The old lion eventually does have to step down, but sometimes, we see the betting public lean a little too heavily into that.
Love it, love it. So, Dan, give me some great value in some of the other fights on this card.
Well, value is a great word that you use there, Tony, because in the co-main event, we have the second title fight. We have Valentina Shevchenko defending her flyweight title against Taila Santos. And oftentimes with these kind of female title fights or these bigger names, you see the air quotes Ronda Rousey odds. You get up to like the minus 1,000 neighborhood. Not quite there, minus 600 to minus 700 for Shevchenko. But if you think she wins by decision like I do, you can kind of turn that minus 700. Again, we're the prop department now, so, buyers beware there. But you can turn a minus 700 into a plus 100. I mean, just getting a plus number next to a dominant champion like Shevchenko is definitely tempting. I haven't played it personally, but these are kind of ways, when you asked earlier about those props, Tony, these are kind of ways to get the value up on these big favorites. Whereas, the fight right below it, which is, another high-level female fight in the strawweight division, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Zhang Wei Li, that one's obviously much more tightly lined for a reason, and I don't disagree there. It's going to be a much more competitive fight.
So Daniel, you gave us a plethora of information. Now I gotta put you on a hot seat. Just give me your winner for each fight on this card.
It could be scary giving out picks early in the week like this, but if I remember last time, I gave out a winning straight pick and a winning two-leg parlay there. So we'll see if we can do that again, Tony. I'll let you know what I'm looking at. I'm actually looking at a combination right now between Manel Kape and Brendan Allen, which you could get for plus money, but as of this recording, and I imagine as we get into the week, that's not going to be available. So, as I mentioned, I still like Jack Della Maddalena, maybe not as a straight play. I missed the plus money, but you pair up Jack Della Maddalena with Manel Kape, or you pair him up with Brendan Allen, whichever one you like more, folks. That's a nice plus number in there. Maybe you sprinkle on some of the props, like I'll be looking at Maddalena perhaps by decision. That's a nice plus money prop. And for Brendan Allen, I think he might be able to take this to decision, which the odds makers don't think, and that means you get a nice number there. So there's little sprinkles you can take if you don't want to go all out on the parlay, but my main play is right at the top. I like Glover Teixeira as an underdog. It's a nice number at plus 165. If you sprinkle inside the distance, which if he wins 99.9% it's going to be that way, that number is going off at plus 260, so you add about another ducat to that line. Again, that's if you like the Teixeira side like me. That's where I'm looking.
Hey, Daniel, last time you came here, our viewers won some money. Hopefully they're listening to you again. Thank you so much, Daniel Tom, fighter analyst for MMA Junkie. I'm your host, Tony Anderson, signing off for Clear Play. Make sure you go to Typical Sportsbook and get your MMA fighting bets in. Hey sports fans, if you want to learn more about sports betting, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And don't forget, for tips and analysis, make sure you go to betforthewin.com.